Greetings again, people of Earth. Crazy Cosmo coming at you again. I've waited a little bit longer than usual to put this video out because this one's going to be fraught with spoilers. There's only a couple things I'm going to talk about on this video, just some stuff that's been bouncing around in my head. As of this point, I've seen The Force Awakens now 3 separate times. And I've gone back each time with specific things in mind to look at to try and either prove/disprove some of the theories that I have up until this point been going and looking at. So one thing that I noticed a lot about this movie, and people have said it before, is it's kind of all about old is new again, was I think the quote that was used. And so a lot of the movie, people have actually kind of made mention of the fact a lot of it follows the plot structure of the original movie, and it's very, very, very similar. I mean, from the point of Finn landing on the desert planet, just like Tatooine in the first film, there's a very similar feeling, especially considering, you have your fight in the Mos Eisley Cantina, Rey versus the guys trying to get her. From that moment, it leads to the chase sequence, which leads to the Millennium Falcon blasting out of the base, as it were. It's very similar to the original movie. However, I did find one major piece that I don't know how many other people have heard it. I don't know how many other people listen as closely as I do to things like this, but there's a point in episode 7 that directly mimics episode 4, like down to the scene progression. At this point, I really wish that I knew how to find and input scenes and clips from movies into this, because it would be a lot easier to explain what I'm going to try and do here. If anybody knows how to do that and would have the ability to do so and help me out, I would be very, very appreciative for it. So if anybody wants to send me a message or something and let me know, feel free. Anyway, starting with episode 4, we need to kind of build this a little bit to really understand where I'm coming from on this. So episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Han, Luke, and Chewie, 3PO, and R2-D2 have all split up. There's a scene where Obi-Wan Kenobi is sneaking around the Death Star in his older form, a couple scenes before he meets up with Darth Vader in the fateful sequence that ends his life. He's walking through a corridor, right, as he's about to go turn off the tractor beam, and a group of 4 stormtroopers walks by. And they look at each other and say, and I quote, "We believe they may have split up. We believe they're on floors 4 and 5 now." A couple scenes later, Ben Kenobi runs into Darth Vader. Ben Kenobi dies. Fast forward to episode 7. There's a scene, Han, Chewie, Finn, and I think that's it. I think it's just the 3 of them. I don't believe BB-8 is there at that point. I'd have to go back and watch it again to make absolutely certain. But they're looking for Rey on Starkiller base. There's a point where there's a group of stormtroopers that walks by. As they pop their heads out, if you listen really, really carefully, as the stormtroopers walk by the hall that they're sitting in, one stormtrooper looks at the other one and says, "We believe they may have split up. We believe they're on floors 4 and 5. Now, it's a really stupid small quote to bring in from one movie to the next, especially because it was only a stormtrooper and a side character that said it in the first place. However, if you look at the scene it sets up, which is, of course, 2 scenes later where Han Solo meets Kylo Ren and has his Obi-Wan Kenobi moment, it really kind of shows how much telegraphing was being done to the original films by J.J. Abrams. Little other throwbacks, FN 2187. And if I'm wrong about this, feel free to correct me. But as I've looked it up, and as far as I can find, the number 2187 always bothered me. I knew that there was something Star Wars related about it. But FN 2187, if I am correct, 2187 was the number of the Garbage Smasher, or at least the block that the Garbage Smasher was housed that almost killed Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie in episode 4. Which makes for a really cool joke to have a stormtrooper who was only recently promoted from being in waste removal to have that be his call sign, especially considering Later on, Han Solo looks at him and says, "Do you have a garbage smasher?" And he says, "Yes, we do." It kind of brings that whole joke home. The other one is, and I know a lot of people are going to give me flack for this one, so let me say this disclaimer ahead of time. I understand that everything I'm about to say has supposedly, according to people I've talked to, been declared non-canon. I don't know when exactly that happened, so I'm going to go with saying that it could have been at the time when this was done. And we're going to talk about Starkiller Base here for a second. Starkiller Base. Now, the name Starkiller had a major connotation originally, because the original title for Episode 4 was The Adventures of Luke Starkiller. George Lucas, of course, eventually decided that Starkiller was not a good name for a Jedi and decided that Skywalker was better. Now, that could be, as everyone's saying, it could just be a nod, a tongue-in-cheek little throwback to the original title of Episode 4, or, as I believe, there could be a little bit more to it. There was another use for the name Starkiller. I believe it was in the late 90s or early 2000s. There was a game by, I believe, Electronic Arts that was called The Force Awakens. If I'm incorrect on who made it, I apologize. In that, you play as the protagonist, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, Starkiller, which leads to very interesting things, which I'll get into later. Starkiller, however, goes on to be betrayed by Darth Vader and eventually tries to kill him. Now, as we know, since Darth Vader couldn't die, since the movies took place, or since the game took place sometime just prior to the events of Episode 4, or somewhere between 4 and 5, it takes place sometime murky, either right before or during the Episode 4, 5, and 6 trilogy. Darth Vader, of course, can't die, so Starkiller is killed instead. When he dies, however, his last action is he releases Mon Mothma and the entire, what will become the formative council of the Rebel Alliance. So when they're released and when they decide to form the Rebel Alliance, they all decide to take on the Starkiller family crest as their coat of arms, their call sign, their insignia. And we all know what it is. It's that Klingon bird of prey looking thing that every Rebel pilot wears, that every Rebel soldier wears, right? What's really funny about all of that, if we believe for a second that the Starkiller mythology is still possibly canon, or at least was at some point during the story writing process, then it leads to a very interesting set of questions, which is, how would the person who designed Starkiller Base know about Vader's secret apprentice, one? And two, if they named it Starkiller, knowing who Starkiller was, that is like the greatest slap in the face to the Rebellion / New Republic ever. Ever. I mean, what's funny too is they wouldn't even necessarily know it, because at this point, Mon Mothma's long dead. Or at least it looks that way. And it's not something that it's something I doubt any one of them would have ever told them. So, it's just one of those things that I find really, really cool and really, really interesting. The last thing I want to leave you guys with, I'm going to do another video on this particular point later on, but it's something to think about. And feel free to shoot me your comments and tell me what you think. Now, I have another video on here, and if you haven't watched it, feel free to, please do. It was actually quoted on Gizmodo or IO9, whichever one it is. So thank you to whoever decided to call my theory nonsense. At least it was good enough that you decided to quote me as the only person who has come up with the Rey's mother is Supreme Leader Snoke theory. One of my major pieces of information that got left out of that video that I want to leave you guys with now is one major gaping plot hole that I have seen in The Force Awakens, aside from Rey's disappearing jacket and Finn's disappearing blaster, both of which I'll do in another video at another time. But is how, in the name of all that is Jedi, did Finn get Darth Vader's helmet? Now, most people are really kind of glossing over this piece, glossing over the fact that he has it. However, the one thing we have to remember is this. Luke Skywalker is the only person that we have implicit knowledge knew the final resting place of Darth Vader. Everybody else, and including those people in the Force Awakens Journey 2 novels, I believe that for the first one called Aftermath, specifically states that most people in the galaxy, if they know that Darth Vader is dead at all, believe that he died on the Death Star. Only Luke knows that his body actually made it off the Death Star and made it to the planet Endor, where it was burned. Luke attended the funeral alone. And I don't think it's something that he would necessarily go around sharing. Hey, you know, my father redeemed himself before the end and I decided to bury him on planet Endor. Now, it is possible he told Leia, and that Leia would have told Kylo Ren, and that Kylo Ren could have run off and gone it. But I think it lends a little bit more to somebody close to the family turned Kylo Ren. And that's a major part of why I still believe that Luke Skywalker's former paramour / ex-girlfriend / ex-wife, whatever you want to think about her, is Supreme Leader Snoke. But anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. So please, if you like these videos, give them a thumbs up. Give them a share on your page if you like them that much. If you don't like them, share them to your enemies' pages. Piss them off with them. Or whatever you want to do. And thank you to all 86 of you who have subscribed to my channel. Hopefully some more of you will do so, and maybe eventually I can start making some money off of these so I can get a better camera aside from my cell phone, so you guys don't have to watch this horribly awkward angle of me pointing up at my bedroom ceiling. Anyway, once again, Crazy Kahzmoh signing off.